I'm excited to share Bill as an exclusive sponsor of the Thrivecast. They have been sponsoring the Thrivecast for so long. Thank you, Bill. Our firm has been using Bill for over a decade now. We actually use it in all of our foundational CFO and controllership engagements. We have to turn all of our clients' financial processes digital, and we do that with Bill. And you can check out some webinars and blogs and even toolkits that I build with Bill to help in your firm. So thank you, Bill, for being a sponsor of the Thrivecast. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Thrivecast. It's so exciting to have you. So this is a promotion of the Thrival Network, where we take care of firm entrepreneurs all over the U.S. and Canada, coach, support them, put them in community groups, and educate, all the things we do for Thrival members because we love them, because they're doing hard stuff, right? Entrepreneurship, running a firm is not easy stuff. And you know, we have awesome guests. I think we're in our 13th year doing this podcast. So we've always had great guests that teach us how to do entrepreneurship, run a firm, and all the things that these special people do. And Scott Scarano, he is, everybody knows him. So I'm going to read the bio, but you know all this about Scott. So Scott Scarano, an eccentric entrepreneur with a heart of a lion, soul of a house cat. And I'm going to ask him about that. So Scott loves approaching problems with a different perspective, analyzing solutions. Scott's why is empowering growth-minded entrepreneurs to thrive and prosper, and he does that. So Scott's Paget team, his firm, is filled with passionate advisors, unique personalities, and they take care of clients too. So he's doing a whole bunch of stuff like all of us entrepreneurs. So Scott, welcome to the Thrivecast. It's just awesome to have you, man, finally.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is so cool. I love your setup here. I love the show.
Yeah.
So well, I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, I think we have scheduled. I get to be on your show podcast.
Yeah.
At some point. I can't remember the date, but that's coming up. So I can't wait. All right, I'm going to ask you some questions. So, why in your bio does it say heart of a lion and soul of a house cat? What do you mean by that?
I can attribute this to Liz Mason. She wrote that whole bio for me. Liz Mason of High Rock.
Yeah.
I'm not very I'm not very good at summarizing things, and summarizing myself. That's a huge roadblock. Like for me, I still wouldn't be able to do a bio. I still haven't updated that for all of the new things I'm doing. But I think
it's a good bio, man.
Yeah, it scales. It scales to pretty much anything at that point. Soul of a house cat, heart of a lion. So I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I live through my emotions. I am very, you could say, emotional person at times, but
me too.
My wife always tells me I've got a really big heart, and I really care. Like I feel everything, and I see everything, and the people around me, and it's like I don't know like where that came from or how I got to be like that. But that's sort of like, as people get to know me, they describe me the same way. Like, and anybody in my life usually ends up going to those same things. Like, I'm very delicate, I'm very gentle, I'm very sensitive, but I'm also very passionate, and I'm very excitable, very excited about things. And so Liz just did a beautiful job writing all that. And I'll forever use that. I guess I don't need to update it, but I'll always use that kind of bio and lead with that, because she summarized it pretty well.
I think so. Well, yeah. And as I've gotten to, know you, and we've gotten to hang out, all that stuff you said is true. When you just one-on-one with you can be a pretty intimate person. You're very transparent. You're very open, which makes people very approachable. And so that's a great leadership quality about you, but extremely creative, right? Extremely creative, which is a lot of how the profession knows you to be, very creative, and very passionate too. I know that too so all of those things, come out. And I guess have you been that way for as long as you can remember? or did you grow into that as an
I think it's
entrepreneur?
hard.
Or
Yeah. So it's hard for me, or it was hard for me to express that creativity because I'd have a lot of colors going on in my head, a lot of things light up and a lot of ideas, but the imagination gap is so big with some
yeah,
of my ideas. And
yeah,
then when I try to articulate them, and so it would always be real messy,
mm.
unpolished, real messy, the ideas, the way they would come out. And then I would get early feedback on stuff and people wouldn't get it. So
yeah,
it'd be discouraging.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so, and so for a lot of the years, especially running the firm, I stifled a lot of that creativity and I set it aside. Sometimes it would come out and eventually I'd be able to articulate it, but it was just, I butt my head up against the wall a lot because I got in my own way.
Uh,
So the creativity could never come out because I'd try to do it all myself and I would get in my own way and I didn't
yeah,
seek help and I didn't get
yeah,
others to help with that vision or with those visions. So I think for the last couple of years, I've learned so much through everybody else and through people doing it. And I've told you this many times. I've learned so much from what you're doing. You're a very
mm,
creative individual as well. The way you describe me, I think a lot of people probably describe you similar ways.
mm,
So through people like you and others in the profession, I've been able to better hone in my creativity because I'm surrounding myself with the right people
yeah.
and people that can complement me, and I'm able to start delivering on those ideas.
That's
And
cool.
yeah,
And that's one of the keys, right? Is surrounding yourself with the right people. And I probably you found this too. Having a podcast really just gives you an excuse to talk to some of the brightest minds in the profession
all of the
around you.
brightest
And
minds.
it's like
Yeah,
people don't know, sometimes I'm asking them questions about stuff I'm trying to figure out in my own firm and they're just sitting there coaching me. We're trying to do a show, but Julie, my partner, she can hear it and go, "Oh, he's asking about the problem we're trying to solve right now." And I'm like trying to get the goods
you
out of
can't
this.
help it.
No, yeah, because it's like embedded in you, and so you're right. You learn from the people around you. And there was a point in my firm where, because I was in rock bands and college and stuff like that, and I had to pick a major. I picked accounting. So you've probably always been this creative. Why did you pick accounting? Like,
Ooh,
what was
good
that,
question.
dude?
I
What
don't
were
know how
you
much.
thinking?
I don't know how much you want me to reveal here or not, but I can tell you that whole story. So my grandfather was a CPA. I had a
Okay.
lot of that in my blood. And younger,
Okay.
I had two things, two A words. When people asked me what I wanted to be, I would always say actor and accountant.
Mm-mm.
Those don't really mix well.
Mm-mm.
But I loved attention, another A word. I'm very, so you'll notice I'm very alliterative, or I have a lot of that in me, those tendencies. It's either OCD, but it's also the creative side.
Yeah.
Now that I'm rapping, I'm always trying to be lyrical with the things I
Yeah.
say.
Mm.
Um, so when I go into college, I get into University of North Carolina. It was like my
Yeah.
dream school.
Yeah.
I worked hard to get in there. And then
Yeah.
once I got there, I realized I don't think I want to be an accountant anymore. I don't think I want to do
Uh-oh.
business. I just want to create. I just want to. So I had a TV show when I was there. I was doing all
What?
kinds of creative things.
What the
Yeah,
heck,
like
Scott?
the student TV show, things like that.
Okay.
I was writing screenplays. I was it was, but I was also doing a lot of drugs at the time too.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's fueled a lot of the creativity, but it
okay.
also got me into trouble. I was selling drugs, and none of these things. I'm
Oh,
not proud of all these things, but I say
no.
them because I needed that to happen to me to get to where I am now, and I needed all those experiences to happen. That's how I learned a lot of what I know about business was
Yeah.
in real life. So I had a business, but I was trying to I was trying to do the creative pursuits.
Hmm.
After getting into that trouble, then ended up going back to school. I finished up school and finished up my accounting degree, and
Mm.
then went into accounting, and I set aside all the creative stuff, and it got very pushed in the back of me, and it would find its way out here and there, but never intentionally. It was always about business. It was always about,
Mm.
I got married at an earlier age too. So I've got, my daughter's turned 16 this year, and I've got two other kids. My son's 9, my other daughter's 5.
Mm.
Growing a family and building a business. That's what it was all about
Yeah.
for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And I
For sure.
closed off the creativity
Yeah.
because I thought it was all just a pipe dream.
Yeah. It's not.
And yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's not anymore. but we
No.
can get into that. We'll get there.
Well, you had to let that come out. I did at one point. I'm like, because I got into, this year will be 30 years ago, got into the profession, and I had to wear the khakis and the coat and the tie, and then
that's what everybody did.
Yeah, and then started working with my dad, and I said, "Why the f am I wearing a suit? I do not like these." And I said, "Nope." Put on some jeans and a t-shirt, went to work, and said, "This is my uniform." And some people are going to have to hate it or like it, but it like a switch flipped, right? But you came out of school, graduated summa cum laude. I mean, dang man, you're a rapper, summa cum laude, accountant graduate.
Well,
people go, how is Scott got all this package in him, man?
Well, so I thought, and I also thought that you could not be like you actually learned, I guess, in an earlier stage that you could blend both. I didn't think I could blend both. I thought that one side of me was the analytical, the business. I could do those things, and the other side was creative, and I just put that away. I just conformed. I mean, I'll say conform, but that's what I did. I was able to always get grades. I was always able to show up. I mean, I never thought I was that smart. I had to work hard for the grades, and I had to do what I needed to do to get the good grades.
Yeah.
And every other aspect of my life suffered. I would put everything else aside. I would delay gratification and everything else because I had to work. I had to put in the work. And I mean, obviously it worked out. I'm not going to say, but I don't think I was that happy. I don't think I was very happy doing everything I was doing. I was just working hard.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the accounting. I enjoyed helping business owners, but I also just didn't feel like I was doing it for me. I felt like I was doing it for something else. And it was mostly about the money. It was mostly about, I think I didn't even know what I enjoyed the most about it. I never really reflected on that for most of the time that I had the firm.
Yeah. So. And it sounds like you weren't being true to your authentic self, and probably you're opening up people to understand, because there's a lot of firm owners that hear you and listen to you, and they need to hear, no, you need to be who you authentically are. And if that's wearing the things you wear and saying the things you say, you need to wear it, and you need to say it, and you need to do it, and let the people come to you that are really meant to be around you. And some people aren't going to want to be around whoever you truly are authentically. But yeah, pushing down who you are authentically is not healthy, and it's not good. I did it, right? I'm extremely creative. There's like you, there's constantly new ideas of new things to do. And I used to try to do them all. I would launch it all, do it all, and it consumed me. It swallowed me up. So
I'm living it right now.
Well, tell me how you do that. How do you do this media career, probably is what I'm calling it, and a firm? How do you do them together? How do you balance that? Or where are you winning and not winning?
Yeah. So,
dirt.
One thing I had to learn. Yeah. So with the firm, I struggled a lot, and I struggled I wasn't a very good leader. I wasn't very good at managing people early days, and leading up to what got me here. The biggest lesson I learned was how insignificant I am in the whole process, and how and so at some point I realized everybody else around me is getting everything done, is elevating me, and I had more gratitude for everybody else around me than I did for anything I was doing. And I got myself out of the work at one early stage COVID. I realized I was actually in Mexico when COVID happened. And so I ended up living there. Well, we have a house there, but we stayed there for 4 months early COVID. Wow. And I realized everything at the firm was getting done without me. They didn't need me. They didn't need me as much as I thought they did, as much as I thought they needed me there to keep everything on the rails. I realized then, and it was the most valuable lesson I could have learned all throughout, was the trust that I had in them at that point, and the ability, like when I realized how much I wasn't needed, then I realized I don't need to shoulder that burden of everything that's happening in the firm. So I needed an outlet. I needed some way to occupy my time, because then I stopped reviewing returns, and I stopped all of the things that would keep me chained to the desk and chained to the office. Yeah, I had to rethink all of it. And once I started to trust the team a lot more, the biggest lesson I learned all along the way was trust, and trust the people around you. It's not about them trusting you. They will trust you if you trust them. It's about you actually trusting them and letting go of all the fear of what could happen if you trusted them to do this. And I think the biggest step I took was stepping away and getting out of their way. And then I realized that they were thriving without me. And that was a hard thing to deal with too.
Did that make
Everybody
you feel bad?
Yeah. Like I questioned my whole existence almost. I questioned what was I even good for?
And that's when you were in Mexico realizing.
Well, it was all throughout 2020.
Okay.
Throughout all of 2020, and in Mexico, but it started there, and coming back, and then we didn't have an office anymore, and then I'm just occupying my time with this little old podcast. I'm just learning. I'm learning the tips and the tricks of running a firm. I'm talking to other firm owners, but really, I just liked the conversation. I just liked talking to people, and I still do. I love that.
Oh, I love that part.
But I had this crisis of, if they don't need me, then what am I even do I even need to, I just questioned everything, and I still kind of do. I still do now, but I think I have a better grasp at all of it now.
Okay. Well, teach us. So how did you get from, I'm questioning everything, this firm runs without me, to, no, what I built was valuable, and if I'm not as deeply engaged and they're still successful? How did you deal with that existential crisis of who you were?
I learned a little bit of gratitude. I learned a little bit of appreciation for what I had.
For the team and for what you had. Okay.
But I also learned a really big lesson is you cannot grow two things at once. And when all of my attention was at this podcast, and then this became my venture, this became, and everybody makes jokes. Hey, Scott's got a little podcast. Scott has a podcast. Everybody has a podcast, right? But I felt like it was more in the back of my mind. I felt like this was the start of a platform. And when I saw what you were doing from the, when I started to pay a lot more attention to what everybody's doing out in the industry, I saw you with a firm and a platform for accountants. And I said, I can do that. I had the confidence that I could do that. I said, and I came to you during Carbon X, and I actually said it to you. I said, and that's when I was able to fully start articulating what was going on and where I was going. And I didn't really know until I saw it in somebody else and what somebody else was doing. But I also realized that if I'm going to grow this, I can't at the same time be paying attention to everything going on at the firm and trying to fix that and trying to, I used to micromanage things, and I used to just get in the way. Always get in the way. I say I get in my own way too, but I would get in their way. I always want to change things. I always want to make them better. I always want to get this new process in here and do this. And this guy said we should do this, but then this guy said we should do this, and then she's over here saying we should do this. So, and it's just,
it's hard to focus.
Always so hard to focus. I still have trouble focusing. I'm having trouble focusing right now.
But that's the thing of running a firm. Yeah, and we do both, right? So we run a full-time firm, full-time Thrival community, and you figure out, I guess I would say you're extremely valuable to your team, but you figure out how much you're not capable of doing without people around you that care about that same mission, to get on board and do the valuable things you're doing. And and I guess that's what you're learning is.
Well, and I still thought sometimes I would have these lessons, or I see what other people are doing, and I would think that I internalized it, but it wasn't until I was actually taking action and doing something that I said I would do. Or when I say I'm going to trust people, actually really trusting them is an entirely different thing.
For
so
sure.
It wasn't until some things started to happen at the firm that I really realized how much I trusted them and how much I put faith in them. And it was when we had to let 2 people go in 2021. So we hit a point where we kind of overhired, and I was stepped away, and we had more capacity than we could even do anything with. And things started to kind of settle in with the whole COVID or post-COVID, and we were losing money for a couple months. And so we realized, like, we got everything together. Everything was going well. And that's why we had more capacity. We started outsourcing some more too. So a lot of that overhead work, a lot of the work that was being done was being done, and they were more effective. Like, our outsourced team was doing better than the team that we had here.
Oh man.
And we had to let 2 people go here. And that my team took that burden, and they took that on, and they, a lot of the things that I would probably put on myself, they did. And going through that process, they took a lot of ownership in the hard things. The hard things about being a business owner, a lot of times the employees or even the people that you think you trust doing it, you still take on that burden, and they don't have to really shoulder that. Well, I saw what they were going through during this. And then I realized, like, it's not just perception. This is a reality. Like, they really do take. And so that from that point forward, I trusted them with any decision they want to make. If they need me, they know they've got me. But they only really had me for an hour tops, 3 hours tops a week. Otherwise, I wasn't checking my email. I wasn't going into doing anything related to the firm. I'm sitting here at the same time trying to build this whole podcast into a platform. And I'm still just trying to do it all myself. I still didn't trust other people. I had a co-host. I had Ackerman, but he's busy with his firm. And
he's running a firm.
People here and there trying to help me, but at that point, I still didn't even know how to apply what I learned at my firm into something like this.
Yeah. Well, it's iterative, right? It's hard to really know because not a lot of people are running a firm and a platform, right? Both of those things are tough, right? Tough to do, and so it's not a lot of people are doing what you're doing. So there's not a book to read. There's not tons of people that can tell you how they balance or manage that. So it's so iterative. You bump into walls and you go, what the heck am I going to do now? And sometimes the only thing you can do is look around and go, will somebody help me?
Yeah.
And then you're forced to trust people, or you have to, close things down, which it's hard. That's heart-wrenching. I've started things and I've had to pull them back out and go, I can't pull that off. And it's
hard because then you feel like you failed in something, and you feel like all the people that you told you were going to do that, now they're going to think you're not worth much of anything, and they're never going to believe you when you got another idea. And I've gone through that so many times. And so
it's tough.
And around this time, I think where I'm at in the story, at least, we were still sons of CPAs. We were still in middle school, so to speak, the way I describe it, because where it gets to.
Yeah.
And then eventually at some point I had that epiphany of what this is going to be.
Counting high, man.
Counting high.
That's
it
cool.
was like, it was right before I saw you, because I remember I talked about it at Carbon X on stage a little bit of what it was going to be. And that vision was so clear to me at that point.
Yeah.
Because it was a culmination of everything I was doing and everything I was talking about and all the people I was talking to. And then I realized it was so much validation when I saw what you were doing, or I see what Ryan Lazanis is doing, or even Jason Statz and Blake Oliver, like what they were all doing. And then I realized, like, I can do this in my own way.
Yeah.
Like, and I had some confidence too. I had a lot of confidence, but I didn't have a lot of faith at that point. At that point, I'm blindly going into things like a bull in a china shop and talking about my ideas, and I had no idea how I was going to do any of it. And I definitely I couldn't do it by myself, but I didn't know how to ask for help either. I didn't know how to get anybody to help me, because I also was like, this isn't making any money, so I can't pay anybody. Right. So what am I like? I'm just got people that come on episodes and stuff, but that's different than actually doing things. And so, the firm was making money. That was funding all of my other activities, but this is like, I can get a couple sponsors here and there, but it's not the same thing.
No, it's different economics, definitely in a platform. But Accounting High is now a thing, that is fully launched. That platform is out there, and so now you're iterating your way through building that thing out, and so your vision happened. I think you told me about it at Carbon X, which is weird. It was at Carbon X. So Ian Vason, who one of the leaders in Carbon, there years ago, 8 years ago, I can't remember. There were things I launched, and I wanted him to be a part of it, and he was. And those things failed. And Julie had to help me clean up some things that I had messed up. And Ian told me he was going to participate. He's like, "Hey, man. If it's not right now, it might be right for another time. The idea is not wrong. It just might not be the time for this market to receive it." And so he encouraged me when I had to take it back, because I had been telling everybody how awesome this event was going to be. And then I figured out this is not going to actually work out. Very embarrassing to shut it down, send some money back to people. And Ian was one of them. Yeah. And he's like, "Dude, it's okay. You gotta try stuff, and it doesn't work, pull back." And so those are those entrepreneurial stories of loss and messing things up, and it's all valuable. And so now you do have all those things, which is you've gone through a journey to do it. And it's cool you're telling all that story here to help us know.
Yeah, I don't think I've been able to articulate all of it until just now with you, or at least some of it. So this is dope. But
yeah,
and I learned a lot from Ian, and I still do always learn a lot from Ian. Ian's amazing. But it's like we all kind of crisscross with the right people at the right times in our lives, and everything's right there for us to see. It's just we got to be paying attention.
Yeah.
And once I started finally paying attention and got my head out of my own ass and started paying attention to those around me and listening, actually really listening to people, that's when I started learning. It all sounds so basic, and it's all the same things that people have been telling me my whole life. But once I finally started listening and paying attention, it's like, oh man, my wife was right years ago when she said this to me, or my mom's been telling me this my whole life. And finally I get it. And I still don't really get it, right? You still think you know everything. I always go through these phases of like the peak of Mount Stupid and then that valley of despair. Eventually I get to that plateau of like peace and prosperity or whatever. But it always along the way, we always mess things up. So Accounting High is still super, super early. Like we're still just on a content phase right now. I think the whole pyramid of what you've done and what I see others do is more content, courses, community, and then like coaching and real sustainable, building something with a solid foundation. And I think right now I'm just trying my hardest to keep things entertaining. The education has to be there too. And I think there has to be a core of education, but that's not usually me. It's always somebody else there that's educating. I'm just the custodian that raps sometimes.
I love it. Well, what I want to
inspiring.
Inspiring. You're rapping and inspiring.
But that's what you've done. You inspired me to do certain things. And there's a lot of people that have inspired me. But do you remember the first time somebody told you they inspired you? Do you remember the feeling you had? Like I'm asking you a question now.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit of touch of that, how that felt.
Well, dude, now Scott, you're turning this on me, man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. No, well, probably early on in when I launched Thrival. Probably November 2010, I was writing on Thrival.com probably 4 years before that. So the Thrival URL has been around 15 or more years. I think it was a Blogspot blog where I was starting to mouth off, about all that I knew about running a firm. But after starting Thrival, it started growing really quickly. And as it became a community, communities start to ask you to do stuff for them, to teach them. Well, of course, imposter syndrome is like, you're like, I hope these fools don't figure out I don't know what I'm talking about. So you're hoping nobody finds that out, but they're in your community. So they're like, teach us a coaching course. You're like, oh, okay. So a lot of that started creating a lot of imposter syndrome, and a few things failed. So it's probably Julie came along, and she kind of came in. She didn't really know this, but she came in at the bottom and had to start cleaning stuff up. That's kind of what she did. We're talking financial stuff, and she's the one who said, "This is real. It's something really big, and you can do it. Now I'll help you, and we're going to have to clean up all the messes you've made, but I'm going to help you do it. If you'll focus and get in on the train, then I'll get on it with you, and we'll do it." So she was the first one that really said, this actually is going to work. But you know what? I have fought with her for a couple of years because I didn't believe her. It's like, you don't know.
You might have had confidence, but you didn't have the faith.
Right. No, I didn't know. And so she, the same message. It's like, no, this is unusual what you're able to do and accomplish. I'm like, no, that is not true. I'm like screwing things up. So it takes somebody to see past some of those initial screw ups to go, no, there's something that's pretty incredible, and you need to leverage that. And so, yeah, but I didn't believe it. So it's weird. Well, somebody tells it to you, your face, and you go, no, you're not right.
It wasn't until real recently that I've started to believe it and have that faith. It was the confidence. But when somebody told, and it's happening more and more and more now, the more I do stuff, the more I have people coming to me out of nowhere and just telling me something that I did inspired them to now do this or this.
Do it their way, authentically.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an amazing feeling. That's what all of this is for, is people coming to me and telling me they were inspired to do this thing that's awesome. Like that's so cool,
man.
Yeah,
that's very cool. Well,
it's delicious.
Yeah, dude, it's yummy. So, well, let's take a quick break for a sponsor, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to ask you some questions about your firm.
Dope.
I'm excited to share Divvy as an exclusive sponsor of the Thrivecast. Unlike expense management, spend management from Divvy now lets us provide cards to our team members, apply budgets to those cards with preset levels up front for each team member. And as we've implemented spend management, we no longer have to deal with the messy receipts on the back end of our expense management process. Check out getdivvy.com. That's GETDIVVY.com for more information on managing your funds and moving them to the front of your spend process. We're back from the break. So, Scott, this is good stuff, man. Inspiring other people is yummy and delicious, which is my takeaway from this podcast. But there's some point in your career, and this now I'm going all the way back. You were in an auditing job. I have a story of working for another firm and going, I'm freaking out of here, man. I'm gone. What drove you to go, I am not working for you bozos anymore. I'm leaving. I'm going to go start my own firm. What pushes people out of that nest? Because that's freaky, scary. What pushed you out to go do that?
Push themselves out. I got fired from two jobs. That's why I left.
There you go. It's on the podcast.
Honestly, like that, but that's actually the best things that could have happened to me, because I think you probably are one of these people, like rules never really applied to me. I had Dave Barrett on the show. Yeah, it always gets me in trouble. Always. Yeah. You heard like what happened to me in college, and it's been happening to me my whole life. I always I saw through rules, or they didn't apply to me. I think nowadays I realize now that Dave Barrett said it best. He said, there are no rules, there are only consequences. And I failed to see the difference between, I want this to be my way and I don't care about the consequences, versus this is not a good rule, or this isn't the right way, or there's a better way to do something. So the difference between finding a better way to do something and ignoring the rules that shouldn't be there, or questioning things. And it was Ed Kless who recently told me like the difference between, or he told me a story about if there's a fence in the woods and you don't know why it's there, don't go taking it down, because there could be a real good reason why it's there. Find out why it's there first.
Yeah.
So you don't get eaten by the wolves on the other side or something like that. And I think in my case, I've always just jumped every fence I could, and I end up losing a few limbs here and there because of it.
But if you look behind and go, now why did they put that no trespassing sign? And then if you find out, well, that was a pretty stupid reason to put up a no trespassing sign. So now I am going to jump the fence because I've done my due diligence that the sign is pretty stupid. The rule makes no sense, and
it's
I'm
outdated.
Gone.
It was there. It might have been. It might have made sense for when they put it up, but now doesn't need to be up anymore. So why are we all following this and taking this longer route to get there when we can go straight through?
Right.
And that's what happened. So I guess we're fast forwarding a little bit, but like when I would get fired for different reasons. One
you
of them
say
was
that
just,
like it's a high volume, Scott.
Yeah, I know. It was a trend, I guess. I don't know. It only happened a couple of times, but
there we go.
But when I went out to do my own, it wasn't to do my own thing, because I started working for the guy that I did, like, it was very, very small shop, and I had two job offers. It was the one that I ended up taking, and another one at another CPA firm, and one of them was a lot more money. One of them was less, but he told me, he said, I'm looking to retire in about 5 years. I need somebody to just kind of take this on their own and grow it, and you'll be compensated fairly, and possibly you can just take this over in 5 years. So I saw that. It was like not a lot of pay, but I could then have some responsibility. I could grow something, and that sounded exciting to me. So I took it, and that's when I started really questioning rules. And this is a franchise that I'm in. I'm still in it too. Yeah. But the franchise had ways that you're supposed to do things. He sent me to Athens, Georgia, to the headquarters, and they're sitting there telling me, and this was years ago. This was like 12, 13, 15, no, it was like 15 years. I don't know how many years ago it was, whatever date that is there, that I started there. So they're telling me, how to market, how to do certain things. And there's a lot of stuff that foundationally was great advice, but then there was a lot of questioning, like going door to door in the age of the internet. Like, shouldn't shouldn't we be advertising online? Shouldn't we be doing stuff online? Oh, no, that doesn't work. Don't listen to anybody that does that. Like, I was hearing this kind of stuff.
Wow,
then.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's a trip. And you're going, this is not jiving, man, with what I know.
Well, yeah. And it was very frustrating, because I had a lot of people that knew better than me and knew this is the way. Like, and I just upended everything in his office. And so all of a sudden they start paying attention when we became the fastest growing franchise in the system.
Yeah.
And this was all because of the cloud, because of all the tools that I'm adopting, and I'm not using any of the prescribed tools. They had their own proprietary systems, and this is how you're supposed to do it. And I changed everything. I'm in a franchise. They're supposed to be what you're paying the dues for, and I'm doing everything differently.
How's that going?
Working. It was working out great.
You ran a great firm. Is Padgett okay with that?
Well, so Padgett's different now. I think Jeff. This was before Jeff. Yeah, this was before Jeff.
That's true. Yeah.
And I don't know how much I want to talk about Padgett altogether, but at the same time, like, I'm in this system, and they've changed things as a result of things that I was doing, and now things are differently, and they have good people there. They got Amanda there. They've got Jeff there. And things are entirely different. They've got good partnerships, and they're doing a lot of great things for the franchisees.
Yeah.
I'm just not paying attention to anything anymore. I'm just like, me personally, I'm out of it. I'm out of any of that altogether.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do this other thing here.
Yeah.
But I see it pretty clearly being far away from it now, and seeing my ego was getting in the way then too, because I thought I knew best, right? Yeah. And then I got that reinforced when you have people in the system feeding my ego, telling me how great. Like when I became one of the biggest, I was the biggest franchise at some point, and they're just continuing to feed my ego because they were loving that. Their royalties are going up, so then they just kept telling me what I wanted to hear, and that was dangerous, because then again, you build somebody up into thinking that they do know best. that's when I started to really learn some hard lessons over time. And that's when I really felt like I knew it all. And it's just, not that long ago. So I got humbled along the way, obviously. Like, we learned those lessons. So, I kind of fast forwarded a little bit, but those were some of the big lessons learned, and letting my ego, not getting it out of the way and getting out of my own way. That unhealthy belief in my own importance has really, like, I've been really working toward becoming a better, more humble individual. A lot more humility, but every step along the way, it gets in the way. I don't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
No. I think I'm interrupting you, but I guess there's nothing like failure to humble you and help you humble yourself. Because I was the same way. Left the firm I was at and said, I'm out of here. These jokers, I can run a firm way better than they can. And they've been doing it for, 30, 40 years. And of course, it didn't take me long to figure out, I don't know what the freak I'm talking about. So, you had to, and so you get humbled and you make a lot of mistakes. And then when you do something like Thrival or Accounting High, you're a public person and you make mistakes publicly like that. It's really, really upsetting. People are like, that's okay. But, you're back in your, your office crying, going, I am an idiot. What am I doing? I'm shutting the whole thing down. And you start thinking about that stuff. You're like, I'm out. I'm out for good.
One thing that I've been doing intentionally and differently than Thrival was, I didn't want to make myself the person that knew things. I didn't want people to look to me for the answers. I wanted to make it more decentralized. I wanted this to be a faculty of people. I just positioned myself as the custodian. Don't look to me for advice. Don't look to me for answers. I don't know. I'm asking questions just like you. And this is what I would tell everybody. I don't know any of the answers. And that's another thing that's started to shift over time too, is I had, for the past couple of years, just presented myself as, I don't know anything. This is why I have co-hosts. This is why I have guests, because I need them to teach you. That's who's teaching you. And it wasn't until somebody like Julie came to me and said, but you do know a thing or two.
You do know. And, that's the thing.
You do know things. Yeah. And that's also hard when I'm trying to get my ego out of the way and say, I don't know anything.
Right.
Like, I still am blind. That's also my ego getting in the way. Me saying I don't know anything and hiding behind the fact that I don't, like, I thought it was better to set the bar really low and to just, like, I could trip over it to walk over that. If you set the bar really low, then nobody has any expectations and you can exceed their low expectations of you. And that's why I would have all the talk of, like, oh, I smoke a lot of weed, or I do this, or I used to, like, when I would talk about that stuff, it was almost like I was I didn't want people to know that I also was capable of summa cum laude and capable of doing things.
Dude, yeah.
But I wanted them to totally underestimate me. Yeah.
Well, too late. It's on the podcast, man. You know what the crap you're doing. You blew up a firm. You made it huge. It worked. The franchisor started copying your method. So, so there's going to have to be a balance that you do know what you're talking about, and then also trying to be humble. Man. Good luck.
Woo, balance is hard. Ron Baker says this a lot. He's not a big fan of balance. I'm one of those people, and I'm a 1 or a 0. I'm all in on something. I'm 1,000% all the way, or I'm all the way in the other direction. And this is why it's so hard for me. This is why, like, I'm still now trying to navigate this whole, like, I kind of do know a thing or two, but I don't want to be this, like, this is so crazy, like, to even say it out loud, but it's like, I don't want to be the center of attention, but that's all I want at the same time.
I know.
Like, it's so hard to go somewhere new, like, and be somewhere and be present, because I also want to be the center of attention too.
I know. Well, and so, but Scott, you are authentic. You're just, you just lay it out there, right? You're saying stuff we all believe. It's like, no, it's okay. Don't look at me. Boy, I hope everybody looks at me. And it's like, that kind of stuff will chew you up inside too. If you're not authentic about what you're saying out loud, is like, I struggle with that. That's a balance. And we all do. But at the same time, there's this imposter syndrome. So you're out there going, no, I don't know anything. while in reality you're like killing it at running this firm, creating the platform actually you envisioned, told me about. Here it is. It's come to fruition. So people are finding out you actually do know stuff. So how do you deal with imposter syndrome when you're alone and you're like, I hope nobody finds out that I don't actually know, when we're starting to learn you do know actually. So is imposter syndrome a thing for you? It is for me.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a great question. Because, and that's what I tried to do to prevent a situation of imposter syndrome, was not to put myself out there as the person who knew.
Right.
But then I also realized, like, I do want to be able to speak at conferences, and I do want to be able to do certain things. And so I got a speaking coach now. And well, I'm going through Misty McGee's, the TOPS, Peter of Public Speaking. And I'm working with Krista over there, and she's been really helping with a lot of it, because it's almost like I had imposter syndrome and I didn't even admit to myself that I did. I always felt like I don't have imposter syndrome. I know what that is, but I didn't have it. Yeah. And then once I finally realized I did, and the insecurities that I've had all along the way came out when I tried to bury them, and I tried to hide them from myself too. It was like a lot of like denial. I think I lived through a lot of that, and now I can see what that was, and I can recognize it when it's coming out, because I am very nervous. And Greg Kite, he taught me something when I saw him at a Gusto thing, and he said every time he does something, he's nervous. That never goes away. I'm sure that happens with you too. Every time you go on stage, even at your own event, you're still probably nervous in a lot of ways because you want it to go well. Yeah. And I think I started to try and hone that, and that nervousness and that anxiety became excitement, or I started to classify it as excitement, because it's the same emotion. That's the same feeling. When you're excited about something, you're also anxious. Yeah. It's just a matter of how you frame it. Yeah. So,
and it's that tension, it's that those points of tension are really that we try to avoid them, but those are actually our points of maturity, right? Those places growth in life moments. Where we're being stretched, right? That's actually growth, but they're actually things we try to avoid. But actually, those are the places where we're moving to a different level. We're learning, we're iterating to something new that maybe somebody else was avoiding. But if we walk into it, that's the point. We got to walk into that tension, that place of maturity, and then we grow, which is what you said you were doing, and I think you're inspiring different generations now, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think about that? Like our profession's changing, right? Generations are always in flux, and we have platforms now where younger leaders and firm owners that they do things completely different. They can be outspoken. Where do you think we are in the profession with maybe there's generations starting to retire? I'm in the Gen X, maybe the Gen X, they're starting to think about
generation. You're the bridge between the boomers and the millennials.
I know. I'm the, and you're like, who am I? Do I lean towards the boomers and then I want to lean towards the millennials? What do you think's happening in the profession? What's going to happen with younger generations as they're leading now in very innovative ways? That's a big question.
I got a lot of thoughts on this. Okay. Very big question.
It is.
I guess addressing the generational thing, it's age is a mindset, for sure. And then going back to like the early days where you had to wear a suit or you had to do this, like that's how a generation was raised. Yeah. And they were raised in you had to be a different person at work than you were at home. And that was the way. And then slowly we start to see that erode over time. Yeah. And generations start to realize it was the generation after millennials that started to really embrace that. The Gen Z really embracing, we can do what we want, when we want, and how we want, because we have all of these tools at our hands, and there is no separation of work and home and that whole work-life balance BS. Like there isn't that. Like it could, Dave Barrett said, it could all just be blended together like a salad dressing. You know,
Cool.
it's not, it's not one or the other. They should be together. And so I think that that's a mindset shift that certain generations have to have. I don't think age plays into it at all. I don't think generations play into it. I think it's just going to be a lot harder for the generation that's on their way out to shift because they don't need to. They're on the final stretch.
Yeah.
But our generation, like my generation, because now I see us in the middle of all this, we are having mindset shifts. The elder millennials, closer to Gen X.
Yeah, you're on the older side of millennial. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to be 40 this year. So
Come on.
I know.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's when your knees start hurting. See, that's what old people say. Well, your knees are going to start hurting, stuff like that. Well, what do you?
I do a lot of walking. Hopefully, yeah.
There you go.
So it doesn't happen.
Yeah, much. You rap when you walk, which is pretty cool.
I do. Yeah.
So, what do you wish older people in the profession knew and embraced, and what do you wish younger people in the profession knew and would embrace?
Yeah. So,
like we all have got something to learn. What do the older ones and the younger ones all need to?
I think that's it right there. That's it right there. We've all got something to learn, and knowing that. I think the younger generation needs to know that always, because a lot of young people come in thinking they know it all, and they're not humble enough at that stage to know they know nothing. They haven't got to the peak of Mount Stupid yet. They're just still on their way up. The older generation needs to learn that there's still plenty to be learned. They're not wisdom. Yeah. There's not that much wisdom when you get to that point, because things change over their lifetime too. And if they've ignored those changes, then they're closed off and they're not learning anymore either. Yeah. So both generations, I think, you played it well because you're right in the middle, right? Like, so you've got to learn from the older and the younger.
Right. Yeah. And I've got to do what you've said, which is I've gone up Mount Stupid and I've tumbled down the other side, which, you've done that too now. And so that's a lesson. So when you roll down to the bottom of the other side of the, Mount Stupid, you can go, I'm going to stay here. I'm comfortable. I'm not climbing up another mountain. Yeah. And you're saying, no, you got to go climb the next mountain because there's another mountain you haven't climbed. You don't know what it is yet. You're past the Mount Stupid that the younger people are trying to get up and tumble down the other side. And of course, younger generations, this is what I was like. I'm like, no, I'm not on Mount Stupid. I didn't think I was even on that mountain, but I did find out I was on that mountain.
Well, you don't know. You never know you're on the mountain because you're stupid enough to not know, right? You don't see the mountain. You're too close to it. Yeah,
that's not cool. Close to it. Well, and you know what? I think one thing I'm learning from you is that somebody you trust close to you says, hey, you're on Mount Stupid, and you start believing them, but they're not dissing you. They're actually going, I'm going to help you, but you are on Mount Stupid. I'm just saying, let's work through that, but you are on that mountain. And then you start believing them, knowing they're going to help you. And that's when you can actually start, keeping yourself from maybe stumbling off the mountain. It's other people. The
hardest part about that is not getting defensive too, and not not going into self-preservation mode and trying to fight against somebody that's just trying to help, and then you resent them for trying to help, and then all of a sudden you're getting yourself into more trouble because you got somebody that's trying to help you that you're turning away. And so I've gone through that plenty of times in my life. Oh
man, I've gone through that with, fault Julie on some of those things. I remember, and we say this, a lot of our Thrival members know this phrase. It's one of Julie's phrases that everybody repeats in their life. But she said, do you want to grow both of these? Do you want to? And I said, I guess, yeah, I want to. She said, do you want what that means? And it really upset me because I can always assent to the yes. That's my easy out. Yeah, of course. Ask me if I want to grow. I'm going to say yes. She said, do you want what it means? And I knew she was saying it's going to mean hard things and there's going to be a lot of good things. Do you want what it means to actually say that yes? And I got really upset when she said that. And I did fight with her about how she got in my face about that. I was like, how dare you ask me, do I even want what it means? She questioned it. Did you want what it means? And I said yes, and wow, I didn't know. She had some vision to know that's going to be a hard road you're asking and wanting to go down. But I said yes. So here we
and
are.
it tells you more about you than her at that point.
That's right.
About how you reacted to that and everything. And then
That's right.
if you start to pay attention to that, once you can get on the other side of it, then you can probably prevent it from happening the next time.
Right.
At least.
And that's a good point. That was less about Julie getting in my face. She was asking, you want what it means, and it says a lot more about how I responded to being challenged, because maybe I had, was starting to stumble on Mount Stupid, and I was feeling pretty foolish. And she's like, well, it's because you're doing a bunch of hard things, which you're totally capable of doing, unlike other people I've met. But do you want what it means to try to take on those endeavors? And whew.
Well, it's important to know. You mentioned the younger people on Mount Stupid, but everybody ends up on Mount Stupid again after they fall down, because if you ever try something new, you always early stages of doing something new. Like I still think I'm on the peak of Mount Stupid with this rap stuff. Now I'm starting to think I'm getting pretty good at it.
Yeah,
and
you
I know that's dangerous.
Yeah,
that's dangerous though too, because then I think, well, now I, but I'm trying to be delicately careful about not getting stupid about it. Like I'm reading a book, how to rap. Like I'm really trying. I'm a student of all of this, and every
awesome.
every new rap I do, I study the hell out of the parody that I'm doing. This is my school. Like doing these parodies is my school to learn how to be a better rapper, because I'm taking the best of the stuff that I grew up with, or just my favorite rappers, and now I'm taking tracks that they've done and breaking down their verses every syllable of the verse, and trying to replicate it in my own way.
That's cool.
It's fun.
That's the story of some of the great rappers, Eminem and Beastie Boys and all of them. They were just like, I don't know what I'm doing. When they get honest, they're like, I was the dumb one thinking I could rap, and then they're like masters at this stuff, and you're like, you doubted yourself? Are you out of your mind? Like you were always at the top. And they're like, nope. And their story was rapping on streets, right? And just feeling like a fool, and people, telling them they were no good. And they pushed through that because they saw something different than what other people saw. So it's amazing. All right. As we're wrapping up here, Hey, you see what I did there? All right. Come on.
You did it. Yeah. That's good.
Hey, don't worry. I'm not going to rap. So I'm never going to be competition. Listen, bro.
That's another thing. Competition. That's something that you have to rid. Like, so, I am doing a big competition. Like it's ironic. It's going to be ironic. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite saying this, but none of us are competing. And I said this to you at the, I'm not telling you this because I want to be your competition. Like, I feel like everybody has something to learn. Like when we all cooperate, and that's a mindset shift that a lot of people need to have too, if they haven't had it yet. And that's a generational thing too, is not seeing people as competition, but being able to collaborate and cooperate with everybody. And I think that's so important. And, I never got that vibe from you and a lot of the people that are doing things now. I don't get that vibe. I did get that vibe from a lot of people in the profession in my early days too. So cool. It's not competition.
No.
That's what rappers are doing now. Like, in early days, rappers were killing each other. Like there was beefs. Always there was beefs with rappers, and now they're all working together. They're all collaborating. This is the new era of rap. Is everybody has a track with each other? They're all working together.
That's so cool.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, we're learning that. So, where do people go to find out more? Obviously, accountinghigh.com, but you're in a lot of places. So, what's the one place you would say people need to go to visit you online or your profiles?
They can check out the podcast. We got 5 episodes a week coming, episode a day, basically.
Oh my gosh.
This is 3rd semester of freshman year at Accounting High. What? So each semester is going to be 5 weeks, and we've got 5 courses, and each day is something different within the theme. I think your episode is going to be a guidepost. Every Monday we come out with the new guideposts. And those are episodes from like Ron Baker and Ed Kless and in those categories of people, the leaders, the guides. But I mean, I'm on the socials. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. You you can find me there. I don't really, like the socials themselves is this tough spot for me because I don't even want to be on there, but I feel like I need to. And I feel like I also like probably have something to share. So I want to start getting more intentional about being on there too. But that's pretty much where they can find.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, Scott, you've always been just authentic, man. Every time I've met you, so if that's something you had to grow to, you're fully in it now. So, which is what's so interesting to really learn. So, thanks for being authentic on the Thrivecast with us. I appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me. This was dope. I appreciate you.
It's fun.
Thanks.
Okay.
I can't wait for your episode on my show. I got a lot of questions.
All right. We'll see you there, man. Take care.
All right. Dope.